name is Frank Wilson, and I have a long association with the APEGNB, and I was president in the mid-'80s, and I've held most of the offices since then. And I spent my career at UNB in engineering, so that's why my tie is to APE. I call it APENB, but they put a G in it. It's now APEGNB. I got involved in 1967 when I returned to teach at UNB, and a very close friend of mine and the late Albert Stevens and the late Ira Beatty, they were both faculty members in civil engineering. And when I came here, came back to UNB, they said, Frank, you should get involved with the association. So I did, and that's how I started. Well, I came out of, I grew up in Albert County, and my dad was a lumber camp cook. So there wasn't a lot of money to go to universities. So I got a job in the surveying area, and I spent 5 years in construction, working on survey crews and running survey crews. And I worked from Newfoundland to inside the Arctic Circle at Inuvik. And after 5 years, I returned to Nouveau-Brunswick to study engineering at UNB. Well, I've got a better story than that, actually. I was working in Inuvik inside the Arctic Circle, and I was working for 4 civil engineers, 1 from Nova Scotia Tech and 3 from UNB. They were all civils, and I was running all of their surveys, for the entire project, which was building the town of Inuvik. And I was called in one summer, and they said, Frank, there were all 4 of them there, we got news for you. And I thought, well, I'm going to get out of the north, because the mosquitoes there in July and August are almost as big as your camera and vicious. And I thought, I might get out of here. And they said, we got a deal for you. You apply to UNB in engineering and go there in September, or we're going to fire you. And I said, fire me? I've been working day and night. We know that. But if you keep working for us, you're not going to have any future. You get to university, so you are doing what we're doing now. So they said, and besides, the company will pay your tuition. Well, I didn't have much other choice. They were going to fire me. I might as well apply. So that's how I got to UNB. So I owe a lot to those 4 guys. Well, I worked with a very good executive director at the time, Huntley Wishart. And it was great working with him, because Huntley could take a quarter and cut it 10 ways. He was extremely concerned about the budget of the association. A great fellow. And it was fun working with Huntley, because you'd have an idea, and the first thing Huntley did was cost it out. You had to make sure it was a sound operation. And I had great experience with him. And he was on one side of politics, and I was on the other side. So that made for a lot of fun. And I remember one time we had gone the night before to Edmundston for a meeting of the, and we'd taken Huntley's car, and Barry Bisson, who was very active in the operation, was with us. And Bisson and I were both on the liberal side of things, Huntley on the conservative. And we were coming back the next morning. We got about to Woodstock, and Huntley's car ran out of gas. There it was. And when he found out it was gas, he didn't say anything except, that's what the Lord did to me for carrying two Liberals with me. So I always remember Huntley was very dry, never hardly smiled, but he always had comments like that. One I liked very much was the late Stan Cassidy, and we gave him a major award. Stan Cassidy is a man that the Cassidy Center at the hospital is named after, and he was extremely generous to students and to everybody. And I remember we had the national meeting in the West in Calgary, and we were there, and Stan got the top award from the National Association. And I was extremely pleased because I had known what he had done for other people. One thing he did when I was in engineering, Dean of Engineering, at UNB, he came to me and said, "Frank, if you ever need money for a good student cause, come to me on one condition. No one ever knows I gave you the money, including the student." And I thought, Stan, that's pretty good. And by golly, within a month, a young man from rural Quebec lost his mother. She died suddenly. They had no money for him to get home or anything. So I called Stan, told Stan what it was, and he said, "Come to my office late this afternoon. There'll be a ticket there and an envelope with cash in for the young fella. He can't go home broke." Stan would never let me tell anybody on that. He's dead and gone, so I can tell the story now. But when he got the national award, that was a pretty special day for me. I think all moments we're proud if you're serving your association and meeting other people. One great benefit of being president of the association is that you meet people in every other province who's working for their association. And my wife and I made some marvelous friends over the years from coast to coast. And you're always proud of what your own association did or was doing. And I can honestly say that the New-Brunswick Association was as good as anyone in Canada and better than a lot. Well, I just believe what Albert Stevens and Ira Beatty told me, that you've got to give back to people and to the association. And if we don't stay involved, a lot of us, it's going to die. The interest is going to decline. So just my interest in the association and its advancement has kept me involved. Well, I think you've got to volunteer, you've got to serve on committees, you've got to donate a bit, and you just got to be involved, and you got to encourage the young engineers. I spent a lot of time promoting the association with students. You've got to keep them involved. The association's not going to survive with old guys like me. We got to get those young kids in here and get them in and work them up through so that they become the presidents and so on. And I think APEGNB does a pretty good job of that. When I look at the past presidents over the last 20 years, we've got a lot of them in there, quite a few of which I taught, which gives me a good feeling that the young people are getting involved. And that's the future of the association. Well, when you're dealing with something like self-regulation, there's always a risk. There's always a chance someone in government wants to expand territory and so on. But I think as long as we do a good job and look after our members and look after the public on safety, which is very important, I don't see current governments making any moves to change the self-regulation. But the association must always be on guard for that. When I was a student, we were using slide rules. Today, only museums have slide rules. And I have one in my desk as a keepsake. But other than that, and that's where we've gone from there to supercomputers. The whole world's changing. Well, when I first started at UNB, we were running those computers all night up there with punch cards. Now you couldn't find a punch card. Well, we started out with just one that was in a small room. It was a very early computer and very limited. And then we went to an IBM 1620, which was quite a good computer. But it still was slow, and it was card controlled, and you ran a lot of programs at night when other people weren't. And then it just kept ricocheting from there on up. There were handheld. Texas Instruments had a calculator out that was really an early computer in many ways, and we had to be careful then because students could use one of those at exam time and put a lot of results on it. So we had to check that out a little bit. But that was in by 69, 70. We were seeing quite good advancements. They've got to keep their eye on the ball about self-regulation. They've also got to push hard to get more women. When I was Dean of Engineering, we started a program on that. We got a chair in women in engineering and so on. We're down a bit now at UNB in the percentage. We got to push that back. You know, women have been a marvelous addition to the association. We got to get more. And we got to keep a good liaison with the schools. You can't wait until they've graduated and then try to get them interested in engineering. You've got to get them when they're in grades 5, 6, 7 up. We got to do more than we're doing right now in that area. So my concern would be keep your eye on self-regulation and go after the young people.